Hello, how are you? Happy May 11th, even though you'll be watching this on May 12th. I'm creating it on May 11th, which is my sister's birthday. Aren't you glad you know that? So it's nice to see you again. We've got some things switching up this week, so you need to pay attention. The first thing is that we were told that for the daily discovery, it has to be a grade. And so we have just been doing the illusions with you for the sake of learning them. The illusions are like Pandora's box and Achilles' heel. We've been doing those. This is our 7th week with them. So this week with the illusion, I'm going to be opening a discussion on Schoology, and you have to come up with a question, a comment, or an example of when you've seen the illusion, and that will count as your grade for the week. It needs to be a legitimate question, and make sure that it is a legitimate question or comment, because if it's not, it'll show that you responded, but I just won't give you credit for it. So make sure that in your mind that you and what you're saying is legitimate. You're not just being a jokester. So that's one of the changes. And the other change for this week is that we have a guest, Miss Boutin, who is doing the lesson. And so this video that I'm doing right now is going to be very brief. I'm just going to do the illusion and explain the homework to you and show you an example of what we're doing this week. But Miss Boutin put together a really nice PowerPoint presentation with an audio and with a lecture and lesson about something called blackout poetry. So last week I did the lesson on narrative poetry for all of 10th grade. She did this week on blackout poetry, and I'll do next week's lesson. So let's get started. Our 7th illusion is an eye for an eye. How many times have you heard that before? An eye for an eye. This is where it comes from. I want to remind you what an illusion is in case this is your first video with me. An illusion is a brief and indirect reference to a person, place, thing, idea of historical, cultural, literal, or political significance. It doesn't describe in detail the person or thing to which it refers. It's just a passing comment, and the writer expects the reader to possess enough knowledge to spot the illusion and grasp its importance in a text. We use illusions in writing, and it makes the writing more interesting and vibrant. We also use illusions in everyday conversation. So an eye for an eye, it actually originated in a place called ancient Mesopotamia. And we now know that region of the world as the Middle East. It includes parts of Southwest Asia. And during this guy, King Hammurabi, he ruled during the 800 BC in a place called Babylon. And so that's where an eye for an eye comes from. So it's that old, and we still use that phrase, 1800 BC. So for thousands of years, this saying has been used. And it comes from something called Hammurabi's Code. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And the full quotation reads, "If a man is destroyed the eye of a man of the gentleman class, they shall destroy his eye." The illusion is used to express that the punishment for a criminal or a wrongdoer should be the same as for the crime or misdeed. For example, if a person kills another person, the family of the victim might say he deserves the death penalty. An eye for an eye. This illusion is commonly used to refer to getting revenge or justice for a crime or wrongdoing. So that's illusion number 7, an eye for an eye. So this week's lesson that Miss Boutin is going to be doing the PowerPoint on is called blackout poetry. Now when you watch her PowerPoint presentation, I want you to make sure that you are doing what's called presenting the slideshow in order to hear her audio. You could just watch the PowerPoint, but then you won't have any clue what to do. You won't be getting her lesson. You'll just be reading the slides. So if you're trying to do it fast and you're like, I'm not going to listen, I'm just going to whip through this quickly, you're going to miss a lot of the information and you won't know what to do. So up at the top, there's this little thing that says slideshow, and it's got a symbol, and you want to click on that. and that will start activating her presentation. So there's this PowerPoint presentation, and she has inserted an audio there. There's also a short YouTube video that is in her PowerPoint presentation that you need to watch as part of her PowerPoint. She did an excellent job. And what her PowerPoint lesson contains is a definition of blackout poetry, examples of blackout poetry, a how-to video on how to write blackout poetry, and then she models how to actually go about doing it yourself. She shows you how to do it, and she's done one herself with books. And then for the homework, you can use books, but she also talks about how to do it digitally. So listen carefully if you don't want to do this in a book. She's provided you with some digital sheets that will allow you to do the blackout poetry digitally, so make sure you pay attention to that. So I actually did a blackout poem to show you myself, and I just took a book of mine, and I write in my books all of the time. I take notes and everything, so even though books to me are precious, they're still things, they're living things. I like to write in them. So what I did is I just skimmed for a page that looked interesting to me, and because you're actually going to be blacking out words in your poem, in a book, you need a Sharpie or a marker or something. I put a piece of paper between the pages that I was working with, and this is what the blackout poem looks like. Mine's not beautiful, but it works. And I'm not going to explain much about it because I don't want to be redundant, and Miss Boutin will explain that to you. But once I've blacked out all the words for my poem, what's left is this, and I'll read it to you. And it comes from the book The Untethered Soul. And my poem is left with this. You are perfectly comfortable. Here comes this moment, then the next moment, and then the next. You are just letting life unfold. From this place of clarity, you are now standing face to face with the infinite space. Lean forward and grab onto things as they flow through. Not bad, huh? I like that. So that's what you'll be doing. You don't know how to do it or why we're doing it yet, but you will. And I want to explain to you the homework assignments. So you've got the choice board assignment, which is there's two choices. You pick one, you do it, and you hand it in. So you've got the discussion on the illusion that you have to comment on to get a grade. And then you've got the choice board. There's two choices. You pick one, turn it in. That's a grade. So this week there'll be 3 grades. So your choice boards are this. There's a poetry analysis. So you have a blackout poem. It's very, very short. And you've got a couple of things that you have to do with it. Give the poem a title you feel is fitting. That's the first thing you have to do, is title that poem. And the second thing is, in 4 to 5 sentences, identify the main idea of the poem. Explain how the poet conveys this main idea. What details do they use to create the main idea? This could be through literary devices such as imagery, repetition, tone, and diction. And if you listen to Miss Boutin's PowerPoint, she explains how to analyze these types of poems, so it'll give you some information. So that's one of your choices. The other choice is called poetry brainstorming, and I love a good brainstorm, or clusters, whatever you want to call it. You're going to create a mind map for the blackout poem, for a blackout poem. Find a text to use for a blackout poem, an old book, a newspaper, an online source. Scan the text for an anchor word. Refer to the PowerPoint presentation that Ms. Boutin does. Write down your anchor word and create a mind map to brainstorm what you want to say in your poem. Example from the PowerPoint about truth. All I did here was to start with my anchor word, truth. That I asked myself what words or concepts I associated with my anchor words. That then leads to other ideas. And you can see she's got truth there in the middle and all of these other ideas around it. This will be on Schoology, so I don't need to explain it much more than that. So basically you either have to do a mind map or analyze this short poem. Easy peasy. And then your independent practice, obviously, is to create your own blackout poem. And that will also be included in Schoology, but let me tell you about it now. Create your own blackout poem, either digitally or on paper. Your poem must have at least 10 words. Your poem must be coherent. Make sure your words are in order. Your poem must be uploaded by next Monday. Optional, you may add illustrations to your poem. You may add color to your poem. You may add a title to your poem. That's it. This is an easy week. The hardest part is going to be sitting down and watching the PowerPoint, and it really is quite interesting, so I don't think that you'll mind it. If you have any questions about assignments that you owe, work about the blackout poetry, please email me instead of waiting to the last minute. It is very hard when I'm getting a ton of assignments on Monday when I'm trying to prepare for Tuesday's lesson. So the best thing that you can do for yourself and for me is treat Tuesday like English Day. Watch all your videos, watch the PowerPoint, do the homework right away, and submit it. It'll take less than 3 hours and you'll be done. And then I can grade it and we'll both be very happy and your parents will be happy. And then I won't have to bother everybody. Oh my goodness. I miss you all. I hope you're doing well. And I will see you again next week when I teach you a lesson on doing a different kind of poetry. So take care.